Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. We'll be right back to the show. But before we do, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, factormeals.com, where if you go to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50, you can get 50% off your first order. That's factormeals.com/unbroken50. If you're like me and you are a person who is busy trying to create a life, heal, work on their health, wealth, and relationships, and not to mention deal with the day-to-days of normal life, you do not have time to be going to the grocery store and trying to figure out what you're going to cook every single day of the week. In fact, one time I did the math and I realized I was spending over 15 hours a week at the grocery store and cooking. When I added Factor, I got to use that time for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for my business. And so if you're in the place where you need some more support in the kitchen, head to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50 to get 50% off. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. Do you ever feel like you have a story that you want to tell and somehow, even though you feel called to do it, you just can't seem to go through with it? That was where I was for a very long time, especially at the beginning of Think Unbroken. I was so terrified of sharing my stories and my truth. And today I'm going to have a conversation with my friend Blair Bryant Nichols as we dive into the power of telling and sharing your story. This is a podcast episode that I particularly love because, one, Blair has been an amazing friend to me, but two, I look at the truth behind his message and his mission about wanting to have conversations and give people the power and the ability to share their stories. I think that as human beings, storytelling, whether it be at the campfire, at the dinner table, has always innately been a part of who we are. And I do believe that we all have the space, we all deserve the space to be able to share our stories, our insights, our dreams, and our missions with the world. And so if you're one of these people and you've thought about this, like, I want to tell my story, I want to be able to start this movement, have this conversation, and you felt stuck, or you just want to figure out how to go to the next level in that, I suggest that you listen to this episode because Blair and I are going to go deep in that. Before we get into it, I want to, of course, take a moment and read a review. And so this review is from Angie H., titled, "Love This Podcast. Absolutely love Michael's honesty, powerful conversations, and drive to help others. It's both educational and inspiring. We need more people like him. Well, I need more people like you and like all of you amazing Unbroken Nation listeners who bring me so much joy by listening to this show, contributing, sharing, liking, commenting, all the things. I also wanted to let you know if you go to thinkunbrokenpodcast.com, at the bottom of the screen, there is a little button where you can hit record. And with your phone or your computer, you can record a question for the show or leave a memo or send me some love or whatever it is that you might feel called to do. So if you go to thinkunbrokenpodcast.com, click the little button at the bottom, you can do that. And as I move forward, one of the things I want to do is share some of those insights that you have with the audience here on the Think Unbroken podcast. So everyone, thank you so much for listening, Unbroken Nation. It means the world to me. And without further ado, let's get into the show. Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Welcome to the Think Unbroken podcast. I'm your host, Michael Unbroken, and this podcast is about helping trauma survivors let go of the past, overcome their fear, discover their identity, become the hero of their own story, and ultimately to be unbroken. Our goal in company is to bring on guests and experts in the fields of mental, physical, and psychological health to help you overcome the past, to take back your power. And in this podcast, we are unedited and unfiltered, and we're going to give it to you real so that you can start to create massive change in your life. If you're curious about learning more outside the podcast, you can get a free copy of my book, Think Unbroken, at book.thinkunbroken.com. That's book.thinkunbroken.com, where you can get a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Think Unbroken: Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma. The most important thing that you can ever do, my friends, is show up for yourself, and that's where you are today. And I appreciate you. I have massive gratitude for you. And without further ado, let's get into the show. Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world, my friends. Super excited to be back with you here again for another episode of the Think Unbroken podcast with my great friend, Blair Bryant Nichols. Blair, my friend, how are you? What is going on in your world?
I'm doing well, Michael. Thank you so much for having me. Just keeping busy, keeping warm down here in Southern California, and trying to enjoy every bit of this summer that we're actually having.
Yeah, I know. And it's nice we actually can start to have a little bit of normality back to our lives after the last, I don't know, it's almost 2 years now. But either way, I think people have heard enough about that. We won't dive into that. So you and I connected a couple of months ago after I had won Grant Cardone's pitch off through our mutual connection of Pete Vargas. And, you know, I've got to know a little bit about your journey and your story and what you're trying to do and create in the world. And I thought to myself, this is a person who has made a decision to create change. And that's something very difficult to do in the world, especially in consideration where it's very simple to stay within the framework of the nomenclature of this is how it is, so we're not going to do anything. And I'm adamant about creating change. It's the only thing that drives me. Mm-hmm. Before we get into that and we dive deep, tell everybody a little bit about you, your journey, your story, and how we kind of cross paths.
Yeah, sure. So, we cross paths because I also co-host a podcast called Inside the Green Room, and we love speaking to speakers who are really leveraging speaking opportunities and stages to grow their business and share their message and make change in the world. And we also talk to event professionals, and it's exciting to talk to people in this time and see, all the innovative things that people are doing and all the amazing, inspiring people who are really getting out there and using their voice for good, and also just to, grow their own business and kind of go against the traditional 9-to-5. So, my journey started when I left college and I wanted to get in the publishing world, and I landed in the HarperCollins Speakers Bureau, which was kind of a hybrid of what I thought I wanted to be as a publicist and an agent. And I learned all about this crazy world of speaking where people were actually getting paid to go out and speak to universities and libraries. And now it just feels like the whole industry has exploded, because at the time, we're still sending DVDs and just starting getting kind of video clips up on websites and leveraging all of the benefits of social media. that now anyone can really get themselves out there as a speaker more. But I started in the world of authors, getting them out there speaking. The publishers obviously wanted to get more books out into the world. And so I got to really see, the wide variety of books and people that were getting published and getting their voices out there, and starting to see, what diversity was actually represented in those books and in those speakers. And I always just found myself gravitating towards people who were different. I grew up gay in a Catholic school, and other than that, I'm a white male, so I didn't have a ton of diversity in my background. I had a lot of privilege, but I always gravitated towards people, even when I was growing up, that were sitting alone at the lunch table, or who were not as popular as everyone else, because I felt safe, and I felt like I wanted to extend kindness and friendship to those people. So that's always who I kind of was drawn to growing up, and who I decided I really wanted to champion as an adult and as a professional. So throughout my career, I moved around to different agencies, worked for different thought leaders, authors, got to really work on all sides of the business, got my MBA at UCLA in entertainment management. And throughout that, kept kind of questioning what I wanted to do. Do I want to go the corporate route of talent management and be a HR, professional, something like that? And every time I kind of lingered in that direction, my heart and my gut kept saying, no, your goal is really to work with talent that inspires you, that feels like friends, that feels like family, people that you want to spend, birthdays and anniversaries with, and really just get to do everything for them because you believe so much in what their message is, their potential, and be able to help them grow beyond even speaking and publishing in all different areas of media, entertainment, etc., and help them really grow their business expansively. So the idea of being a manager kind of kept coming back to me. But having a background in speaking, I have continued to serve roles within agencies to really help different types of speakers. And now I really get to work with a wide variety of speakers who are leveraging stages to grow their business and getting their message out there, whether they're just getting started or they've been in this for a long time. I get to do that. And I get to also manage some amazing, diverse clients as a manager from my own management firm, and really help them grow beyond, the platform that they've already established, the business that they have, and can figure out new revenue channels, new opportunities to get their message and voice out there. So that's kind of when you and I collided, and I felt like this guy is doing amazing work. He's got such an amazing story, and, would love to just continue to help champion you and, more people like you.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that. And that is mimicked as well from this side. One of the things that I'm constantly thinking about is this idea of how do you really truly step into and honor your intuition and move towards creating the life that you want to have, despite, or sometimes even in spite of what people say is capable, what people say is possible, of being the outsider looking in, wanting to create change, and feeling so vehemently driven to do so. And then being at this precipice, or dare I say crux, of having to make a choice that effectively blows up your life in a lot of different ways, but you believe in it so much that you're willing to trudge through whatever is right there in front of you. And I hear that as a big part of your story and your journey to this moment. What's it been like for you to tap further and deeper into your intuition and trust in yourself?
Yeah. And I love this question, because just even what you were just sharing right there, had me thinking that sometimes it's about trusting your intuition, but also being honest with yourself about what you're willing to compromise. So a lot of times throughout my career, I had opportunities to work with people that I wasn't as aligned with. And maybe when I was earlier in my career, I kind of felt like it came with the territory. And as I've gotten older, I've just gotten more obstinate in not really wanting to, help elevate voices or messages or individuals who don't align with my values, or don't align with, what I think is really needed in the world, or what I'm passionate about. Whether or not it's needed is not always up for me to judge. But your question about following your intuition and passion, I think, even throughout business school, when I had that, calling, like you moved to LA to be a manager, to do this thing. And when I first moved to LA, it was because I had gotten a job. I was working for a thought leader. I was helping run his business, and his speaking engagements were really business development for us. But all along I said, but you want to be a manager. So we're here. I was already about 5-6 years into my career, and I'd done pretty well in New York. And so I met with managers, and I went and, got the Hollywood treatment of sitting down and getting people to do coffee or lunch with me. And each time I did, they said, yeah, you've got good experience, but if you want to do this, you'd have to start over as an assistant. And, we pay 30 grand a year, or you can do an internship, or you can do these things. And at the time, I don't know if it was hubris or ego or anything else, but I was just like, I'm just not willing. I'm not willing to give up my steady salary and almost 6-figure job, right now, to go back to what I did already in New York. I was an assistant in publishing. I made 30 grand. I paid the rent and lived paycheck to paycheck. I kind of feel like I'm going to keep building what I'm building, and I'm going to figure out how I can at least move laterally over more and more, and kind of like inch my way towards what I really want to do. And instead of just deciding at this moment to, like you said, kind of blow it up and start all over. And so I think those are always the choices we have to make. Are you ready to really sacrifice everything? And maybe you are. Maybe you have that level of confidence or security, or you've got, you've made it up in your mind that you're not going to be happy unless you pursue it in this way. Or you figure out a different path, a path that starts to lean towards what you really want to be doing. And so that's what I did. I pursued my MBA, knowing that, it would at least give me maybe even some more internal confidence that I know what I'm doing, and that I can actually add value to the relationships I wanted to build with clients beyond, what I already had done in my career. And it did. It really made me feel like, okay, now I have a little bit more to build on. And I just kept taking that next step, taking a job that, still allowed me to get exposure to the world that I, knew a lot about, and continue to just move towards the security of your own business and everything else.
Yeah, and I love that. And one of the things that you mentioned was values. I actually wrote it down because it's such an important reminder, because it's alignment, right? And I think often when people are stepping into the unknown, fear can be even more precedent if you're not certain. And you used a word in this as well, certainty. And in that, you step into this thing about trusting yourself and about believing in yourself. And I know, as an entrepreneur myself and trying to build things, there's always these moments of the limiting self-beliefs and the negative self-talk and the thing in your head that says, are you crazy? You're going to walk away from all these things to try to build your dream. How dare you? How do you navigate that? Like as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as someone trying to create an impact, change on the world, how do you be louder than the voice that tells you can't, shouldn't, don't, or won't?
Yeah. I mean, in my case, it was about aligning with clients that kind of helped build me up. I really have gravitated to clients who have been very complimentary, have been very generous, have been, very, engaged with me, and have actually helped me like realize, what I'm capable of and what like value I've brought to them. So I've almost kind of, unfortunately relied on the reflection of the people that I've served and what they have shared with me on the impact that I've made in their business or in their lives, and the relationship that we've built that has started to make me feel like, okay, this is why I want to, continue these types of relationships, because it's not just, oh, they're validating and gratifying, but there's a mutual respect. There's a partnership. There's, a shared language that makes me feel confident. I can be honest. I can be candid, and that we're both accountable to each other and getting things done. The role of a manager in my mind is to be a strategist and to keep nudging and helping encourage someone's creative dreams, but also to be the one that's kicking them in the butt as much as they are kicking you in the butt to say, hey, this is, like they say to me, this is my dream. This is what I want to have happen. Like, help me. So that mutual accountability and respect for each other, I think, drives both of us forward. And that's what's helped me kind of quiet those inner saboteurs or the critics that think like, who are you? You're a nobody. Like, look at all these other really amazing managers and agents. And, especially in LA, you're surrounded by, enough people that you can easily feel inferior. But I know, to the few clients that I work with, or the many, hopefully, authors and speakers that I've worked with over the years, that I hopefully have made an impact. I have made a difference in the success of their book, or the, getting out there as a speaker for the very first time, or building something beyond what I could have imagined myself doing a long time ago. And then so every once in a while, I have to kind of hopefully reflect on how far I've come and how I'm unique in this industry and not just another person that they could easily replace. And so I do try to use all that to help fuel. And, I think the biggest thing is just working on yourself, even if it doesn't relate to your job. I mean, I know all of the things the practices that you have. I also meditate and work out in the mornings now, and I never thought I would be the person doing either of those things. And went vegetarian, and just all the things that I do to try to take care of myself in different ways, I think has also really helped me in an emotional and a mental way, because it just helps. If you feel good, you're gonna work better. You're gonna find more joy, more confidence in what you're doing. And the stress that used to really sideline me and force me to self-medicate with weed and alcohol for years and years and years has dissipated. It's, I've got enough perspective now to say, yeah, that's someone's upset, someone's, wants different results, this or that. Okay. We go to work to solve them. But I let anxiety and stress and, kind of crazy bosses that I had really run me ragged for a long time. And I've, been working on walking out of that and really just owning what I want my experience of my career to be by being intentional about the people that I choose to work with.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that it's not as simple as just doing the things for your job or for your business. And I found just by doing the work for me first, by proxy, that impacts everything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But much like you, like I can rewind to a time 10, 12 years ago where I think personal development, self-help, these guys are full of shit. Like, this is nonsense. I'm never going to do any of this. And now it's like, it's almost the only thing that I do, because one of the things I recognized was, if I'm the smartest person in the room, like, I am in the wrong room. And I just kept like trying to push myself more and more and more. One of the things that I found to be so incredibly beneficial, and you kind of hearkened into it, but I want to go a little bit deeper, was being surrounded by the right people in alignment and with my values and who it is that I want to be and what I want to build and become. Talk to me about the power of community in your life and how that impacts you, not only as an individual, but as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and as a human being. What is the power of community like for you?
Yeah. Well, I struggle to think about a lot of communities that I really do feel like I'm an active part of. I've been part of this speakers bureau, kind of speakers agency world. I've got a lot of connections within that. And that's been really amazing, because a lot of us move around, and then I continue to see the same faces and people. And it's great to feel like, you've got a history, you've got rapport with a lot of different people that are passionate about what you're passionate about and are doing that, and now can support you in a different way. And so that's been really amazing. As you change jobs and move other places, the people who reach out and the people who kind of lift you up and encourage you and are been excited about your next venture and all of that. But also, coming out of business school, I've taken on the responsibility of leading our LGBT alumni group for Anderson. And that's always been a little bit of like kind of my mission, is getting involved in boards, getting involved in other, nonprofit organizations that serve the community and that help align people with different connections. Even before I was a manager and an agent, I loved helping people just connect to jobs. If I heard about someone hiring, I would be going through my mental Rolodex to figure out if there's someone that I thought might be a fit for that. I helped friends right out of college get their first job in New York and ultimately set them up for the rest of their careers. And I don't say that to brag, but just because it feels very exciting to me to be the one that can help align people with their creative dreams, with their things like that. So I think about the different kind of communities that I've come from with my undergrad alumni or my business school alumni, and then different friends and colleagues I've met along the way, and always am grateful to hear from previous people who've worked for me who still want me to be a reference like 5, 6, 7 years later, because they know that I'll pick up the call and actually, speak kindly about them and encourage them on those next things. So I think all of those different communities along the way have helped me connect and make connections that have been meaningful to my career, but also the joy of giving back and being able to help them has really probably been a lot more gratifying than anything they've ever done for me, because I just have loved playing that role of connector and being someone that hopefully people can come to when they're looking for their next gig or when they're asking for help with something. And I think it's just nice to be needed sometimes and to be the one that isn't looking for a quid pro quo from it.
Yeah, I totally relate. I look at the most vast change in my life coming when I was just like, I'm dedicating myself to service. I'm going to put myself out there for the benefit of other people. And it was so powerful. One of the things I think often happen, and I know people listening or watching right now probably have this experience, because I know I certainly did, of just having this ideation of, I want to help, I want to show up, I want to be on the board, I want to lead the committee, I want to do all these things, and honestly feeling paralyzed by the idea of even stepping into the room, right? Mm-hmm. They'll go, they'll sit down, they'll Google it, they'll find the date, the time, they'll write it down, they'll put it on their calendar and their phone, they'll look at it and they won't show up. Mm-hmm. How do you, as someone who has done it, has stepped into the room, who has walked into it, has been on the board in the committees and doing the things, if you're a person in that position, what advice do you offer them? What kind of tangible something can you give them to help them step into that next thing?
Yeah. Well, I think as an individual, you need to think about, how much time can you give, and how much, do you really want to spread yourself around, because you have to still be intentional. You can't just be a joiner and join everything and then do nothing well. So I, even coming back to business school, like going to business school, it's a weird sort of like 2 to 3 years where you have to join clubs. You really want to make connections. You've got to get involved in a way, because you're investing all of this time and money in this degree. And it's a lot more than just the degree. It is the community. It is the network. But I always would tell people, because I served as like head of our ambassador program and the people who'd come in to interview and do tours and things like that. So I talked to a lot of prospective students, and I would tell them, you choose one social group, choose your industry group, and choose your, other, either affinity group, which is what we call like either the African American or Latino or gay or whatever, groups that matter to you, and just focus on 2 or 3. Like, you really can't join every single club and group and this and that and expect to have meaningful impact or build lasting relationships. So I think the same thing as you're adults in your career and you're getting involved in other things outside of it, be intentional and then just choose one thing that you can do to contribute. You don't have to be the president of the board if you, don't want to have all of that responsibility. But if there's one initiative that you can help, contribute towards, one thing that you're passionate about, go after that one thing, that one organization, and really just, do the most of what you can with that.
We'll be right back, but I wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about the Think Unbroken 6-week trauma healing coaching program. If you go to coaching.thinkunbroken.com, that's coaching.thinkunbroken.com, you can sign up for the 6-week daily Think Unbroken Trauma Healing Coaching Program. In this program, we're going to go over the 6 principles of healing trauma, adaptation, understanding the impacts of trauma, how to become the hero of your own story, what to do next, and ultimately what it means to be unbroken. For more information about this 6-week coaching program, which you can download as an app on your phone and take with you everywhere, no matter where you are in the world, it's interactive. It's built about giving you practical tools that you can use in real time. And if you're ready for what's next in your life, go to coaching.thinkunbroken.com. Again, that's coaching.thinkunbroken.com. Now let's get back to the show.
If you choose to be a leader, if you want to be someone that kind of owns the responsibility of a board or an organization or something, then it's all about building a team around you. You know, when I was asked to kind of take over as like this new revamped, alumni association, the first thing I had to do was build a board. And, there's been amazing people who are on my board who always show up, who always, play their part. And there's people who sometimes show up and then don't really play their part. And there's people who don't even show up. So you start to learn, obviously, who you can rely on. And that's what I'm, wanting to kind of point out to people is if you volunteer and you don't show up, it's reflecting on you, that's another, community that you are now not holding up your end of the agreement. And that's something that isn't a net positive to you or your life. So if you're not going to put the effort in, it's actually going to look worse than if you had never volunteered in the first place. So from my point of view, I just would recommend just choose wisely and actually be all in. Even if that means you're just doing some small piece of it, but at least show up for your piece of it, because otherwise it's just going to be a net negative to everything that you're doing. And you're actually harming the relationships that you otherwise would be building. So I guess that would be my advice, or just my perspective on that.
Yeah, and I think that's very fair because, I think about it all the time. If you want to be involved in something, then be involved in it. Show up. Do it. Do the thing that you say you're going to do. Hold yourself accountable. It's a word that people don't want to hear. Like, it's the truth about it. I'm sorry, but if you want to create change in your world, you have to create change. And ultimately, that means showing up. That means doing the hard thing. And sometimes that means when you put it on your calendar, getting your ass in your car, driving to the place and walking in the door. Because you never know, someone, someplace, something, some moment could change everything for you. One of the things that I know for certain from my own experience that many people have such a difficult time with is accepting the truth that their voice matters. And this sits with me often, like growing up, being a kid who was forced to be silent, for lack of actually literally forced to be silent, to step into a teen who didn't know how to use words other than anger, to in my 20s, like this weird juxtaposition of trying to use words to fit in, to then turning into like understanding how to use my words to empower people. But throughout that entire journey, trying to reconcile with myself that I mattered, that my voice mattered, that I could create and in fact create change in the world. As someone who is with change makers constantly, I know this holds true for probably the vast majority of us, if not 99.9%. There's somebody listening right now where all they're ever thinking about is like, I want to use my voice to make the world a better place. But they're terrified of shame, of judgment, of ridicule, of self, right? How do you start to step into that? How do you start to leverage the power that you have to start to use your voice in a way that matters?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I was actually just speaking with someone yesterday on our podcast who's a master facilitator. And we talked about how important it is to build more events and opportunities that actually engage the audience, that doesn't just make the audience passive listeners. It really actually gets them active, and it encourages them all to share their voice and to be a part of creating the future together, creating solutions, uncovering answers. So I do really feel so strongly about every voice really mattering, that it's not just, the leaders at the top of an organization or a group. It's everyone that has a perspective, and collectively it all creates, really amazing effects when everyone is engaged, when everyone is contributing. But even as much speaking as I've done and as many speakers as I've worked with, I think we all still get that, heightened, adrenaline and your heart racing when you raise your hand in a meeting or in a classroom or anywhere to even answer a question, but it takes practice. So what I would say is, overcoming the fear of being rejected or being judged by whatever you're going to share in any context, where for the first time you might be raising your hand and standing up and sharing that, but there will be someone in that room that will be so grateful for what you shared, because it might have been the same thing on their mind or in their heart. And there's going to be other people in the room who will be enlightened by what you have to share. There might be people who, because of what's going on in their heart and mind, might judge you. But that doesn't matter. I just want you to know that it doesn't matter if someone judges you for what you believe or what you want to share, because there's always going to be a greater number of people who will benefit from it. And I hope that it's a space that has been created, and who's ever leading a discussion, or who's ever in somehow, has some sort of leadership within that organization or community, recognizes the value of what you shared, and that will incorporate and inform, what happens next. So I would just encourage anyone, whether it's writing that first Facebook post or creating a blog and sharing things that you thought you'd never be able to share, you'll be surprised by, who comes out of the woodwork in a positive way and says how meaningful it is to them to see that. And you have no idea how many lives you may change and help. And, by doing that, too many of us really hide behind, what we want people to see, what we want people to know about us, or what we think that they want to see from us, or to express who, we think they want us to be, that it doesn't ever help anyone. People can see through kind of inauthenticity. You know that for yourself. You can see through when someone is not authentic. So being authentic in any context, on any platform, is so important, because it is what creates change, and it is what leads to bigger, broader conversations, and it's what really helps. And some people will never tell you. You'll never know how many people that you've helped.
Yeah, and that's really potent. Like, that's for real. I think from a measurable standpoint, you don't know who's watching. You never know who read that blog or that email newsletter or that listen to that podcast, right? And the other thing about it is, I think about, we all start at zero. We all start at no one listening, no one watching. I hosted events and 2 people would show up. The first podcast had 1 listen. The first blog had no views. And, and momentum creates this thing. And along the line, there were and are naysayers. Blair, I get canceled every day. Like, every day somebody sends me a message. I have a folder full. I'm going to share them in a book one day. But the truth is, it doesn't stop me. But so many people are paralyzed by that fear, because they're worried about, well, what if my parents see it? What if my partner sees it? What if the guy who happens to get in the elevator at the same time as me once a month reads it? How do you navigate that part of the fear? The fear of, like, it's a little bit closer than social media. It's actually people in your neighborhood, your community, on your block.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just kind of deciding for yourself. It's back to, like, trusting your intuition and weighing what you're willing to compromise. Are you willing to compromise the benefits and positive effects that you can have on others around you, because it might make, a smaller number of people uncomfortable? Are you willing to sacrifice some aspect of your privacy or your, personal journey or struggles, so that other people won't look at you in a different way when you could be helping an immense other amount of people? And it should come down to who is most important, because what I've experienced and what I've heard most is the people who are going to pay attention and listen to you first are probably the people who are closest in your life. So yes, it may cause some challenges with friends and family, but it's also going to have a huge impact on them. And they're going to have a richer understanding of you. They're going to have a completely open, they might not even realize the harm that they caused if they're related to what you're sharing. They may not even realize what they have done to contribute to the challenges you have faced. And it's going to cause them to speak and act and think differently, which is going to create that ripple effect of change with everyone else that they come across. So it sounds easy. I know, it's just like, just get over it. But for me, I guess in a rational sense, being a very pragmatic, rational person, I'd like to think, you weigh the pros and cons. And to me, there's always going to be more pros. There's always going to be more people that you can help. And the people who are naysayers or the ones that want to cancel you or the ones who want to detract from what you've shared, they also probably need to hear that message, and they are not going to harm you. We have to get over this feeling of like commentary and like negative comments affecting us. Like we almost have to build that thick skin to say, if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to use your voice, it comes at a price. But the opportunity is to, just deflect any of that and, put your armor on and say, I'm stronger, by doing this than I am hiding.
I love it. I literally got goosebumps. I wish you could see this right now because it's so true. And for lack of a better term, I wish I had a better way to phrase this. I truly do, but I don't. Whenever you change the world, there will be collateral damage. That is the nature of it. I wish that weren't the case. And there will be people who don't like you, people who tell you to shut up, people who throw rocks through your window. That is how this works. But I often think about this old proverb. You might have heard of it. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And I think you're so right. You have to build up that armor. You have to build up that part of you that allows yourself to go and stand and mean something to the world. Because I often think for myself, the biggest fear that I have in my life is the potential to have regrets on my deathbed. And I cannot imagine that. And I would much rather have the naysayers throw rocks than to sit and wonder if I could have helped that person. And maybe a little bit of it is ego driven. Maybe it's a little selfish. Maybe it is. But, and this leads to my question. What I'm very curious about from your thought is I feel a moral obligation. And I think that if you feel a moral obligation, it is your responsibility to step into that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think if it aligns with you as a moral obligation, then, absolutely, because then it just becomes part of your purpose. And, if you had the experience like you had growing up or like I had growing up to whatever degree, there's other people, especially young people who are growing up and experiencing those very same things that are looking to adults, to champions, to role models, to get some sense of hope. And you're robbing them of that if you aren't the person that they may encounter in their life that's going to provide that for them. Like I said, you just have no idea who you're impacting, and you might be impacting their friends or their family or people around them that then it trickles down. So yeah, I guess for me, it comes from a sense of service, and it does come from a sense of moral obligation, but it's okay if it also comes from a sense of wanting to have some significance. We all want to have some sort of impact on the world. We all don't want to pass away and feel like we're going to be immediately forgotten. Some people might have a heightened sense of that than others. But what better thing to leave behind than making other people's lives better than just your own personal pursuit of success and wealth and happiness that might occupy the minds and hearts of others.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I love what you mentioned about there might be a kid, there might be a child, there might be a teenager who picks up that book or listens to that podcast or hears that song or looks at that piece of art and says, this is what I needed. I mean, I recall, being a kid and being a teenager, being the outsider looking in, being this weirdo, like diving deeply into media, like across the board, film and music and audio, and trying to submerge myself within what I wanted, so I could feel like a part of something. And to not share that, you're removing the community that you could build. And we've talked about community a couple of times here today, but it's so true. It's so impactful, and your voice does matter, and you are important. But if you don't believe that first, no one else is going to. And I believe that the only way you can start to do that is through the momentum of doing it enough that it starts to feel true, because it's going to be uncomfortable at first, right? It's going to be difficult at first, but eventually on a long enough timeline, it becomes who you are. Blair, as you think about this and as we dive in this conversation, what is the impact that you're hoping to leave on the world?
Yeah, well, thank you. What you just shared reminded me, it is the kind of the message I have shared a lot throughout my adult life, is like, why publishing, why work in media and entertainment? Like that, just, I think a lot of people assume it's so shallow, it's so like superficial to, want to work in television and movies and books and all these other things that can feel very esoteric. But for me, and I have had the opportunity to travel around the world, and I've thought a lot about, what really influenced me growing up, especially as a gay teen, like movies and TV, as things started to emerge and representation started to pick up, it did make a massive difference in my life. And I think about even like Cosmopolitan magazine, which is, in hundreds of countries, and has changed the lives of women, that there was taboo to even have conversations about different things and how they were treated. And there's so many examples. I always like to say America's best export is our media and entertainment and arts and culture. And a lot of countries, produce a lot of amazing art and culture that's influencing other people. We're not exclusive to that, but I'd like to think it's our finest export, because it has changed laws and rules and the lives of people all over the world. Because they don't see that same representation in their culture, or they don't have, a society of mores that supports their individuality or their experience. So I want to be a part of always creating art, creating, messages, platforms, whatever you want to call it, that have some sort of impact, because they are making significant change somewhere, if not down the street, then maybe around the world. But the people that I find myself drawn to often have that same mission. They often have, a desire to see diversity in their art. They have a desire to see greater understanding and greater support for, countries that aren't as well developed. And how do we actually, eradicate war and, autocracy and whatever else? Like, well, we support the people who are under, that oppressive culture or government, and give them economic opportunity. That's one area that one of my clients has really focused on. And I just love meeting people that, have even gone further and are, visionaries in their own right, and just how I can support them and how I can add structure or support to what they're doing really is my calling. And more and more it's sharing my own story. I think we all have an imperative to share our own story. And for me, my great life work will be sharing my stories, and in whatever medium that provides for that, and hoping that they make this same sort of change we're talking about. Because whether it's a big best-selling book, that would be obviously the dream, or just a few hundred people read it. I know, even having been a writer in college and in my young adulthood, just getting even a few messages like you get every day from people who have found solace and something from what you've shared, as probably the most gratifying feeling that I've ever experienced, even more than from the clients and the people who I've actually helped earn a lot of money.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I agree with you. And the only way that person is going to read that is if you do it. And you're going to and the truth is, about being an artist, I do consider myself to be an artist, as a creator, as a podcaster, as a writer, as a speaker. At the crux of who I am an artist. But I've done a lot of really bad work before you ever see the good work. And you got to put out the bad work. You have to make that stuff out there. And that's where you step into the vulnerability with yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to just try. I'm going to see what happens. There's no guarantee because nobody's going to listen to it. Nobody's going to like it. Nobody's going to resonate with it. And then one day, eventually, they will. And when that happens, it's all worth it. It's worth nobody reading it, no one coming to the events, no one signing up, because on a long enough timeline, as you turn the bad work into good work, people will resonate with it. But if you don't make the bad, they're never going to find you. Blair, I love this conversation. I could literally talk to you about this all day, and I think we're just getting into it. But can you tell everybody where they can find you before I ask you my last question?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram, Blair Bryant Nichols. Instagram is just Blair Bryant _Nichols. Feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to chat. I love, talking to people, whether you're a speaker or business owner, whatever. And, if I can share any insights or help steer you in a direction that may be impactful to your life, then I'm more than happy to take the time to do that. So reach out to me on those platforms.
Amazing. Thank you so much for offering yourself to be of service to everyone. And my last question for you, my friend, is what does it mean to you to be unbroken?
Wow. To me, it means, taking everything that I've experienced in my life and choosing to treat it all as a really valuable lesson and opportunity to create the change that we're talking about, not to feel like a victim, not to feel like someone whose life is always going to be adversely affected by what we experienced or what discrimination we faced or the bad bosses that we had, but to say, wow, that experience, that time in my life has been so valuable in informing how I want my life to be experienced, how I want my professional time to be spent, and what impact I want to make, that I can help others maybe avoid, some of those experiences, or understand that if they've been through that as well, that they can come out on the other side and be stronger and be better and not feel broken.
I love it. And I could not agree with you more. We are definitely in synchronicity there, my friend. Thank you so much. And everyone, please reach out to Blair. He's an amazing human being. Thank you all, Unbroken Nation, for watching, listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend. And until next time, my friends, be unbroken. I'll see ya.
Thanks so much.
Unbroken Nation, hope that you just got a tremendous amount of value from today's episode. I want to know what you think. Please do me a favor and review, rate, and share the episode with 3 friends on social media today. It would mean the world if you did, because ultimately at the end of the day, creating community and connection is how we heal generational trauma in the world. And I need your help to do that, Unbroken Nation. So if you're on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you are, please like, comment, share, review. I want to know not only what you like about the show, but how I can make the show better, how I can make this further about helping you on your healing journey. So do me a favor, and when you do, shoot me a screenshot of you making the review to my DM at Michael Unbroken on Instagram, so that I can have a conversation with you, say hi, and more importantly, so I can share it with the Unbroken Nation. Thank you so much, my friend. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of live coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program.